What's up, Team Harcourts? Quibus here from the Harcourts Academy. I hope that you are doing great. Thank you very much for joining this session on List Like a Pro, where I'll be taking an hour just to talk you through the critical importance of knowing how to list properties well. And we're going to be looking at a few things in your business. We're going to be discussing a few things, but emphasizing the importance of things that you have control over, aspects of your business that you can influence, engagement with your prospective clients that you can influence to give you a better opportunity to list more properties, whether you are a sales agent or a rental agent, to bring more mandates to the market, to sell more property at higher commission percentages, and ultimately make more money and have a more successful business. Because isn't that what you are in business in? And in business for is to maximize your income. If that is not what we are looking to do, then we are really just wasting our own time. I'm sure that you are in this business to make as much money as possible, to run a successful business, but we have to have a mindset of listing like a pro and taking ownership of our business and do whatever we can to maximize our opportunities. So we want to say, let's look at listing like Harcourts Pros, because Harcourts wants the public to know that we do things differently, that we have the best tools, the best presentations in the market. And if all of us can work together on that, all of us in South Africa that wear the Harcourts flag proudly, or that wave the Harcourts flag proudly, we are all helping one another to put that message out to the public that if you engage with a Harcourts agent, you can expect the very, very best product and service in the marketplace. We are one team and we're in this together. So think about it. You are not only doing this for yourself and your own business and for your immediate team, but you are out there doing it for the whole of the Harcourts team across South Africa. And not only here in South Africa, we do this around the world, around the Harcourts world. So let's look at how we can list like Harcourts pros and stand out from our opposition in our marketplace. First of all, I just want to look at a high level at our business in real estate. Our business is no different from a restaurant or a hairdresser or a supermarket where they all depend on leads. All those businesses advertise, they rely on people to come through the door, feed through the door, but we need people to pay for a service, right? Because that's the only way that a business can survive is if we have paying clients. So it's one thing to have a lead, and obviously you put yourself out there every single day in many, many different ways to prospect, because you are looking for leads. You are generating leads, lead generation, probably one of your most important growth activity in your business. And that is why we have the funnel on the right, is because we need to be feeding our funnel all the time with leads, putting people into our funnel. But in today's session, we are focusing, if we're talking about leads, we are specifically focusing on seller leads and landlord leads. And these are people that own property. They are either looking to sell or either looking to rent. Yes, we get buyer leads and we get tenant leads, but we are focusing on our sellers and our landlords today. So we generate leads. That's what we do every single day. But here's the thing. Do we pay enough attention on how we convert that lead to a paying client? And this is where the focus lies today, is how do we generate that dollars coming out at the bottom of that funnel, or the rands? How do we get that client to a paying client? And guys, I want to give you the message today that you have a lot of control over that. If you can show your clients your worth and what you can do for them and what you get paid for, and to maximize your earning opportunity. That is really what the message that I want to leave with you today is, how do we optimize our lead conversion? And one of those tools is the Harcourts listing presentation, or your listing presentation in your office. And we will come to that in a moment. So we want to make sure that we optimize our lead conversion. And as you journey in your business and throughout your real estate career, you will always be thinking of, what more can I do to optimize my lead conversion, to bring leads into my business, but to turn that lead into a paying client. One of the, obviously we nurture the relationships. If a lead comes into my business and that lead is not looking to sell today, I will nurture that business. And that brings us to the next slide, is if I get a lead into my business and that owner is not ready to sell or to let their property right now, they're only looking to know what the value of their property is, and I do a free comparative market analysis, that lead will go into my database, and I will make sure that I stay in touch with that homeowner, because at some point they are going to be selling their property. And I want to be right there when they know they're ready to sell, to be of service to them. So that is how I nurture my lead, and that is how I convert that lead into a paying client. That is part of my optimization of my lead conversion. That's how I optimize my leads, is to nurture that relationship, to stay in touch, to add value, to keep adding value. Yep. Just as maybe as a side point, one can be nurturing that lead for months and years. It might be a few years until they get to the point to sell their property. I might do a value assessment for them today in July of 2025, and I might do another one for them in a year from now, but they only sell in 5 years. But how am I adding value to them over these next 5 years? Am I sending them quarterly suburb reports? Am I sending them items of value, etc., etc.? But I don't want to take too much more time on that. Another homeowner lead that we are also very, very interested in is if we know a homeowner is ready to sell the property, or if they're already on the market, because now I have the opportunity to also do a value assessment or a comparative market analysis for them. And here I have a real opportunity to list the property now. So now I got to make sure that I'm firing on all cylinders, that my listing presentation is the best that it can be, so that when I have an opportunity to sit with that homeowner, I can really knock their socks off. I have a killer presentation. I show them everything that I can do for them, because this is my opportunity to shine and to sell myself to that homeowner so that I can win the business. I can only earn money if I win the mandate, because the mandate will take me to a sale, and that is how I get money into my bank account. But on on this on the screen, there are two scenarios, and there are two different types of listing presentations, or presentations that I could possibly leave with my homeowner. On the left, where they are not looking to sell their property, I might have a toned down, or I will, in all likelihood, have a toned down presentation where I present a comparative market analysis to that homeowner. I also include what we do in our office to market and to advertise a property. What do my services entail? I will have a personal write up about myself, etc. But it will be a smaller presentation compared to the one on the right, where the homeowner is selling at the moment. There I will pull out all the bells and whistles, and I will show them everything that I can do for them, because I need the mandate. If they are motivated to sell, that's another thing, right? I'm only interested to represent a homeowner in the market if they have a high level of motivation. But that's a discussion for another day. Let's continue. So I get a lead, and there might be an opportunity to list that property. If I do list the property, there might be an opportunity to sell the property. But the question is where do I have influence? Where do I have influence in my business? Do I have influence over a lead? Do I have influence over an opportunity to list the property? Do I have influence over listing the property? And do I have influence over selling the property? And I want to say to you today, yes, absolutely. You have influence, you have control over what you can do in each of these sections. Never, never forget that. Because if you have your stuff in place, you have the very, very best processes, you have the very best presentation, you give yourself, you exert a lot of influence over the decision that the homeowner makes. That is what we have. We have influence over the decisions of the homeowner. We always got to remember that. And I really want to encourage you to never forget that, is to ask yourself all the time is, how can I maximize the influence that I have over the decision of my homeowner? There are so many things in this industry that we do not have control over. But the things that we do have control over, we've got to maximize that, right? We got to look for ways to maximize our influence where we have influence. If I'm not maximizing my influence, I am giving up an opportunity. Would you agree with that? I'm giving up an opportunity to have more success and higher ratios of converting leads into mandates and into business. And we will look at that in a little bit more detail. And let me show you what I'm talking about. I would like to share with you two scenarios. The first scenario on the screen is where an agent lists. No, let me rephrase. Let me start from the top. This is what we call an activities to an income planner, or you can also call it a calculator, activities to income planner. And what it means is that we are calculating what we can earn in a year and in a month if we look at different aspects in our business, of where it starts by the smallest activity, and that is the number of listing appointments that I generate per week. And guys, you have to have a target number for yourself. If you don't have a target number of the number of listing appointments that you want to secure with a homeowner every week, you have no way of planning your income for the year, because this is what we call a lead measure. You might know that I want to earn 50,000 Rand a month, or you might want to earn 250,000 Rand a month. But how are you going to get there? You have to know that it starts with the smallest activity on a daily basis and on a weekly basis, and that is to generate opportunities to sit in front of a homeowner. So my first question to you is, what is your target number of listing appointments per week? And think about and identify that number for yourself realistically. But in this example on the screen, we're working with a number 2. The next line indicates the number of working weeks per year. And in this example, we are looking at, let's say, 49 weeks a year, because realistically, we might be taking 3 weeks off a year. I don't think it's healthy to work for 52 weeks of the year. We gotta take some time away from our business. We gotta recharge the batteries, etc. Okay, so if we do 2 a week and we work for 49 weeks of the year, we can look at sitting in front of 98 sellers a year. Number of listing appointments per year, 98. Now, here's the first thing. For every opportunity that I have when I sit in front of a homeowner, what is my realistic success ratio of turning that listing appointment into an actual listing? Yes, we said earlier that not all of our homeowners are looking to sell right now. But here's the thing, is when you sit with that homeowner, what are you showing them with your list presentation or with your comparative market analysis? Is it a brilliant document? Because there will be a success ratio, because that homeowner is interviewing a number of agents. You might not be. It's very rare that you are the only agent that they are calling in to speak to. They might be calling in 3, 5, 7 agents to talk to, right? But you want to maximize your opportunity. If there's the slightest opportunity for that homeowner to identify and to nominate an agent to represent them in the market, to list with, you want to be that agent. Yeah, you want to be that agent. And this is where your percentage will be. If you've been in this industry now for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, you will know what your success ratio is of the number of listings, the percentage of listings that you list, compared to the number of times that you sit in front of a homeowner. I'm sure that you have to know that you will know what your ratio is. In this example, we're going to look at 20%, because you might not have a great listing presentation, or you might not have a presentation at all. You almost wing it. You just talk to the client, etc. So that's a 20%. That will give you 19.6 new listings for the year, and that will give you about 1.6 listings per month over a 12-month period. If you do not have sole mandate, and you took the property to market on an open mandate with a number of other agents, your percentage of your listings that you'll sell will obviously also be relatively low or very low because you are competing against other agents to sell that property. So again, your listing presentation wasn't great. You didn't know really all the right things to say. You were doubting yourself. You were not very skillful. Those all those things come in play. So that's why I put here listing presentation, because this is also where a listing presentation comes in. Your listing presentation influences the percentage of your listings that you sell because it influences your sole mandates versus your open mandates. Remember, he or she who controls the stock controls the market. The agent that controls the sole mandate controls the market. Never, never forget that. So here we are looking, let's say, at a 30% conversion ratio of listings to sales. Listing to sales, 30%. That will give me 5.9 sales for the year. And if in my area I'm selling at an average price of 1.5 million rand per property, and I'm selling at an average commission of 4.25%, I might be earning 63,750 Rand per sale, and that will give me 374,850 Rand gross commission income for the year and around 31,000 Rand per month. Now, we know life is so expensive that 31,000 Rand is not going to get you very, very far. And this is a scenario where your presentation is not as good as it can be, or you are not as good as you can be, and you need to improve. A different scenario is, let's look at these conversion ratios if we change them. So I'm going to move to a different one where your success ratio is 30% on converting your listing appointments to your actual listings, and the percentage of your listings that you sell is 50%. So in other words, you are 10% up from your listing appointments to your actual listings, and you are 20% higher on your percentage of your listings that you sell, because you have a quality listing presentation. You have the very best listing presentation that you can have, and you know your stuff. You know your script. You know what to say to your client when they object your commission, they object your sole mandate, and all those things, because you are well practiced, you are well versed. So that's why you have higher conversion ratios. This is how you optimize your lead conversion into higher ratios. And also, because I'm selling more sole mandates, I have a higher average commission per sale. My average commission now is 5% and not 4.25%. I am commanding a higher percentage commission because I convince my client that they pay me top dollar because I'm going to do fantastic, fantastic work for them and bring them the best result. Guys, this example also only had 2 listing appointments per week, the same as the previous one. But here I'm earning over R1 million a year, 1.1 million, and over 90,000 Rand per month, versus the other example where I'm only earning 30,000 Rand per month. Okay, guys, can you see the difference? And the big difference is committing to my business to work with fantastic listing presentations, to really practice my stuff, to practice what I say to my client, so that I can give myself the very best opportunity to list more properties, to list more sole mandates, and to sell at a higher average commission. So that is just a real example of how you can earn so much more money in this business without doing a lot more, but just looking at small but big things in your business to optimize your lead conversion. Right, that is enough said on that. I just want to close here. Let's move to the next slide. So we already know that in Harcourts we speak about the Harcourts way. You guys are all familiar with the Harcourts way. Now, those are not 3 empty words. It actually means a lot, because, like I said earlier, is we all commit to a brand promise. I think if we look at a grocery store like Woolworths, I think we'll all agree that there is the Woolworths way. Yeah, there's the Woolworths way where they offer the best quality produce that is reliable. If I know that I'm buying something from Woolworths, I know that is of good quality, it's fresh, it tastes really great, it will last quite a few days or weeks in my fridge. And that is exactly what we want to do with Harcourts. So we are all responsible for being custodians of the Harcourts way and to uphold our brand promise. We want, as I said earlier, we need the public to understand that at Harcourts, if a client considers Harcourts, if they see that there's a Harcourts agent in the area, something must come up in their mind that they have heard or seen or experienced something different from Harcourts, from any other real estate service that they've experienced previously or in the past. Harcourt's got to stand out. I'm laboring the point. I apologize for that, but I really want to emphasize that. So in Harcourt's, we have a 4-step listing process. We have the first contact that we have with a client. That's always got to be with energy, asking the right questions, showing interest in our client. Very, very important. From the first moment, it's got to be the best that we can do. Then we have a pre-list presentation. We're not going to be spending time on that today. But today I want to spend time on the listing presentation. And after the listing presentation, once you have secured your mandate, you want to furnish or you want to give your seller or your landlord what we call a post-listing pack or a post-listing presentation. And the type of documentation that you put in there it should be a copy of the sole mandate, a copy of the seller declaration, definitely a copy if you're a rental agent, obviously of the lease agreement, but they will have that. I know that you guys send that to them anyway, but there are a number of documents that you put into the post list pack. But you can speak to your sales manager or your principal around these elements like the pre-list presentation, the post-listing presentation. But just because we are limited for time, I want to move to our listing presentation, which is our main focus for today. And I want to just give you a very high level idea of the main sections that we believe are the standout main sections in any listing presentation, so that if you are new to this industry, if you are still finding your feet and you are not like many of you that might be watching this presentation that are experienced, well-versed agents, this might come in handy if you keep these 5 main sections in mind. First of all, we start off by understanding the seller situation, their goals, and their level of motivation. In other words, their goals with the sale of their property. What are they trying to achieve with the sale of their property? Where are they moving to? By when? What are their options if they don't sell, etc., etc. But then also their level of motivation to sell. How serious are they to sell? Because that really impacts on your working with that seller. Always remember that your role as an estate agent is in collaboration with the homeowner of the property to either sell or to rent the property. It's a team effort. You cannot make magic happen if you don't have the cooperation of the homeowner. They got to be listening to the market. They got to be listening to the feedback from the market, do certain things to their property that might be necessary to make their property as appealing as possible, so that it just helps you to sell their property in the best way possible. Then the next section in our discussion with our seller is the market or our landlord. If sellers or landlord, that's the same, is what's happening in the market. What is the current dynamic in the market, and how does that impact on price and sellability of property? Then we come to pricing. We speak about pricing. This is where we pull out our comparative market analysis and we discuss maybe the dangers of overpricing and what are the different elements that impact on pricing. Then we have a different section where we show our client all the things that we can do for them in terms of marketing and advertising their property, so that we ultimately bring them the best result. And the best result is when we can show our client how we're going to maximize the buyer's pool or maximize the tenant pool, so that we can create competition between buyers, or we can create competition between tenants, so that those buyers or those tenants are forced to make their best offers on the property so that we can bring our seller the best offer. Not any offer on a open mandate, but on a sole mandate, the best offer, because that is where it happens, is the best offer through a sole mandate. And then the last section in our listing presentation is why us? What can we do for you in terms of service? And what do our clients say about us? Some testimonials, some write-ups about me as agent. What is my unique value proposition? What do my office do, etc., etc. So let's look at what that is. But I want to encourage you, if you don't have these 5 sections in your mind yet and memorize these 5 sections, because when you sit with your homeowner, you will be having a conversation with them. You're not going to be reading through through your whole listing presentation. It's a conversation. And if you have these 5 sections as almost like anchors in your brain, in your mind, it helps you then to move to those different sections in the listing presentation. When we talk about a listing presentation, it is really your value proposition that you are presenting to your client, isn't it? You are showing them, what value am I proposing to you? What value and what solutions am I bringing to you? And my question again to you is yours the very best it can be? Is your value proposition or your listing presentation the best in your market? Are you putting in all the effort? Now, at this stage, I should say that I know as you are listening to this presentation or watching this presentation, you might be in an office where your office has a listing presentation. It's a generic presentation that you use, and that is great. You use that presentation and you might be adding some elements to it just to personalize a little bit, to bring in your personal profile, because it's extremely important that we do that. We know that people do business with people. You have the support of your team. You have the support of your office. You have the support of Harcourts as a brand, but people will still do business with people. They want to know who you are. What do you stand for? They want to connect with you. They want to trust you. They want to trust you. So you got to personalize your listing presentation so that it speaks of you and your team. Yep. Are you guys happy with that? So also your unique value proposition as an individual and as a team. But let's run through a listing presentation and see what we can have. So friends, this is now taken, what I'm going to share with you now is the generic listing presentation that is on the hub under listing tools. Under listing tools, you can also type in the hub, you can search for the keyword listing presentation, and you will find one with a front page that looks like this. Sale to celebrate. But remember, again, you can put anything on the front page that you want on the front page. You will customize it. You will have your photo, your contact details, your name, everything at the bottom of this this front page. But if you don't like this front page, make it your own. Remember, what is on the hub is a example. It is to inspire you with ideas of things that should be and could be in your listing presentation. The one that is on the hub, or the ones that are on the hub, are very detailed. They have many different possible things that you can include in your listing presentation. But ultimately, you decide what it is that you want to include ultimately in your listing presentation, just as long as you're happy that it is the best that it can be. Also, what I want to say at this point is, we often hear of agents that say, well, I don't want to burden my seller with, or my landlord with, too much paperwork, with all the stuff to read and all of that. That's all fine and well, but you cannot think for other people. You don't know your client well. You don't know if they will be interested to read all that information or not interested. I would rather go with the mindset of, this is my process, this is my business, this is how I conduct my business, and I want to put forward to my client what I do. Whether they like it or not, that is my process, this is my business. If I express myself well, but I'm sure that you are hearing what I'm trying to say, is that I believe in what I do, and my client can chuck it into the waste bin if they don't want to read my 20 or 15 or 30 pages in my listing presentation. But I am still going to take it to them because I believe in bringing them as much information as possible. Okay, so let's move on. Front page, and then we have a page that might, I think this is quite important, is that we should look at understanding their situation and knowing and asking questions again around why are they considering selling their property, when would they like ideally to move by, what will you be considering when selecting your agent, etc. But guys, you can see on the sticky note what I want to emphasize and encourage you to do and ask you to do is please, as a Harcourts agent, to listen well. We want to be known as those agents in the market that listen really, really well. And we want to adopt a question-based approach. We want to be asking our clients questions. And I think on this, we will we will we will realize that it's important to practice your listing presentation. As you put your listing presentation together, it's then important to work through it, to practice it with a colleague or with your sales manager, and practice that question-based approach, because we want to be asking our client questions as we move along through the presentation. If I talk about a question-based approach and we look at the next slide, these are questions that we're going to ask our client: is their level of motivation and understanding of how serious they are to sell. And we can take them through these kind of five seller motivations, and we can get an indication. We need to get an indication. That's another question based. Asking them what their understanding of the Fear London market is. Fear London is an area that I live in, and I just use this as an example, but getting to know the Fear London market. And but here's an important thing is that you want to be able to show your client that you are an area specialist. Very, very, very important is many agents don't show their client that they really know what's going on in the marketplace, because there are so many agents that are all over the show. They sell in this neighborhood, that neighborhood, that neighborhood. They're even across towns. And how can they really convince the seller that they are an area specialist? And this could be a differentiator for you if you can really show your client that you know what's going on in the market. You're an area specialist, and you share information with them. Getting to know the market, more question-based approach, asking your client if they understand what the influence of, let's say, a buyer's market is on the market, or if it's a seller's market, how that influences price and property, etc. And I'm not going to be spending time on the detail on exactly what a seller's market and a buyer's market is, because again, we are just too limited for time. But if you are unsure, go and speak please to your principal, your sales manager, or to your fellow colleagues in the office, because different market dynamics influence price and also time on the market. But let's move on. It's important that you have the slide in your listing presentation though. Another section that you should really seriously consider bringing into your listing presentation, and where this can be a differentiator for you compared to other agencies, is showing how you are involved in your community, how you are giving back to your community. And this is just a write-up of what I've been doing in my Fear London community. This is a mock-up. I'm not an agent in Fear London, but if I was an agent, I would definitely show my seller that I'm invested in this community. It's not only about selling property and making money, it is giving back to my community. Emphasize your connection to your community and your passion for helping homeowners. Extremely important, and that is also what Harcourt stands for. Now we come to pricing. You'll remember pricing is the third section in our listing presentation. And here is where you will include your comparative market analysis that you have ideally generated off prop data, or if you're working with a different platform, you will generate your CMA on that different platform. So let me show you through an appraisal, just very, very briefly, very quickly. This is what I took from one of our agents in Uitenhage, and she generated this this CMA of prop data. So you will include this. It will show them properties that have registered. It will show your client, your seller, your homeowner, properties that have registered, comparable properties, and just some municipal valuation information. But you guys are familiar with the appraisal functionality or the comparative market analysis tool on prop data. If you are not, please take the time to learn how to use that tool. Take the time to learn how to use the appraisal functionality on prop data so that you can make this part of your listing presentation. Very important, because you'll be talking your client through this information, through this data, because it's critically important in your listing presentation, obviously, that you show your client what has sold and what is currently on the market, properties that are comparable to your subject property, so that you can have a informed conversation and discussion with your homeowner around the possible value of their price. Okay, I'm almost done. So this is just an example of a detailed comparative market analysis. Right, let me take that away. But I think what is also important is, again, to emphasize to your client that you are hyper focused or hyper local market focused, and that you are presenting them with hyper local market intelligence. That will also be a differentiator for you, that will win you more business. From that information that you've presented now in your comparative market analysis, you will have a page where you can enter what they had in mind to sell their property and what the data shows. So keep your question-based approach and let the data speak, because the data will show the client where their property might sit in terms of realistic market value. They might have had an overinflated price expectation, but the data shows them that their expectation might not be reached, or the data shows that they are absolutely in line with what their expectation is. So here is almost where we agree on fair market value on the property. After we've worked through the comparative market analysis with them, we hear what the expectation is, we look at the data, and together we decide, are we on the same page or are we not on the same page? And we take it from here. If we are not on the same page, it's important to have a slide or a page in your listing presentation that you can use to have a conversation with your homeowner around the dangers of overpricing. And this graph at the bottom of this page describes or explains it very well, is that the number of days on the market impacts the price. We all know that the longer a property sits on the market, the lower that property will in all likelihood sell compared to fair market value. There are so many examples that you might have experienced or that you will experience where the expectation of the seller was too high in the beginning. They turned down realistic offers right in the beginning, in the first week or two, and now 6 months later or 9 months later, they're still on the market and they cannot fetch even that offer that you brought them 9 months ago. They cannot fetch that offer, and their property sells for much lower than the property is actually worth. So have this page in your presentation so that you, if necessary, you can have this conversation with your client. Also, if you can also have a page like this, there's more to price than opinion, because the neighbors might have opinion, the client might have opinion, but you can show them different factors that impact on market value right at the bottom of this page. Also a very handy page to have in your listing presentation. What does not influence market value is what your property cost you, the amount you need to purchase elsewhere, what someone else says your property is worth, etc., etc. But guys, in your teams with your sales manager, you can unpack this further. But please also speak to us as BSMs if you need further guidance on this. Right, then we know in Harcourts we offer our sellers two possible selling methods. Not all of our Harcourts offices are on auctions yet or use the auction method yet, but you can, in your listing presentation, if you're obviously also an auction agent, you definitely have to have slides like these where you say market with a price, what are the benefits, what are the risks of marketing with a price, or then marketing without a price. In other words, this is our auction route. We're taking price away. We use a bidding to start from price. And what are the benefits and what are the risks? But many of our offices have their own listing presentations have really made detailed sections around choosing your selling method with a price or without a price, where they explain that really well, or where they unpack that very well to their seller. But make sure that if you want to if you want to offer the auction route, that you have a proper section on that in your presentation. If you don't do auctions, then you might not even include these 2 pages in your listing presentation, because then the only method that you are offering your client is with a price. And then you don't need to even to show them what the benefits or what the risks are. These 2 pages are only if you are offering both of these methods. Are you guys with me? Okay, let's move on. This brings us to marketing, the fourth section in the 5 sections that I mentioned earlier. And obviously here you have an opportunity to explain to your seller or to your landlord all the things that you and your office do to maximize their property in the best, most attractive way to the biggest possible buyer's pool. And this is where you want to list and include all that you do. These examples, or what you will find in the generic mock-up on the hub, include things like professional photography, your signboards, your property videos, your marketing to your database, your feeding to property portals and the National Harcourts website, your brochures, your flyers, your show houses, your virtual tours, or your Matterports, your social media. So these are just to remind you and entice you. And this is obviously, again, if you are building your own listing presentation. Your office that might have an existing listing presentation for your office will in all likelihood have all of this included already. But again, if you need to add to it, if you need to improve on it, make sure that you're showing everything to your client and that you are comfortable explaining to your client what you can do for them when you take the property to market. What can we do for you? Again, I'm just going to repeat that. You want to be in a position when you sit with that seller to know, can I offer professional photography? Can I offer a virtual tour? Do we do Matterport videos? What can we do in terms of social media, etc., etc.? So you really got to understand your office's advertising offering to your seller. If I explain myself clearly, you guys are with me, right? Marketing for success, just another one. And this is now where we move to why us. The why us is the last section in our listing presentation. And this is where we explain our service and more things to our client, to our seller, and to our landlord. And guys, the Harcourts promise is really one of Harcourts' most important, unique differentiators that make us, stand out from our opposition, because we really have all the tools to provide the best service and the best feedback to our client, because there's nothing more that our client wants, that our seller wants, is feedback, to know what buyers are saying on their property. And remember, our role as representatives of their property in the market is to empower them with as much information as possible so that our client can make informed decisions. Our client needs to be put in a position to be able to make informed decisions, and we got to be feeding true information to our sellers and to our landlords. So that is why our Harcourts promise includes these different elements: the detailed marketing plan, the post-inspection feedback. We put all offers in writing. We give a written progress report, let's say every fortnight, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, whatever you decide, whatever you agree on with your seller or with your landlord. And you will have marketing review meetings with your client, etc. But again, I cannot go into detail on the Harcourts promise now, just because we don't have time. But one thing that I want to highlight here, and that I want to encourage you to make part of your listing presentation and what you show your seller when you sit and when you list the property, is your written progress report. First of all, you got to be using the written progress report. That is where it starts. And if you don't know how to use the progress report on prop data under that listing, then go and learn how to use it, because this is a key element in your business. Again, if you want to make as much money as possible, if you want to be a market leader in your area, if you want to experience the joy of providing the very best service to your sellers, then this is something that you need to get a handle on. If you are not there yet, learn how to use this. It's so straightforward, but It's just to get used to this process of making this part of your business. The example that I have on the screen is done by one of our agents, Helen Purden in Port Alfred. This is what her salary report looks like, but all their agents in Port Alfred, every single one of our colleagues in Port Alfred, this is what all of them do, because this is their offices promise to their clients that they do this. It's a non-negotiable in their business. So it shows the number of days on the market, the number of views online, the inquiries, the viewings, etc. Um, over that marketing period, what the views have been online and in total, and then it started to break down. So guys, I'm not going to go into detail in the seller report, but it shows a lot of information. And imagine you can sit with your seller when you're pitching for the mandate, and you can show your seller what you can do for them in terms of feedback and keeping them in the loop, keeping them informed. This shows all the buyers that you've had through the property that you've populated on prop data. You are using the prop data seller lead tools, and you are populating all that information because this feeds through to your seller report. Also, the marketing that you enter under that listing will feed through into your seller report, and this is where the marketing shows. And this is where we build trust. This is, if you can show this to your seller, and not one other agent that they are interviewing to list their property have something similar, then you are in the lead. You're on the front foot. You are going to get the mandate. You're going to win the business. It's a little bit of extra effort that you're putting in, but it makes all the difference between earning zero and earning hundreds and thousands of rand. It's just the extra effort. It's the extra effort. That is what it comes down to. If you're really serious about your business and you want to make good money and run a successful business, we got to put in the extra effort. And right, so this shows all the marketing activity that Helen has been doing on that property, and here she signs off. So I could have this as like a separate document in my listing presentation that I just show my client what we do for them in terms of feedback. Right, so I wanted to show that to you. And coming back to our presentation, then we also include what we call a Harcourts Promise monthly calendar. This is just a generic calendar that you generate off the Harcourts Hub under the Promise folder. You will see under the Promise folder, there are examples of these monthly calendars. As you can see, it goes from day 1 to day 31. And if today is the 15th of July and I'm sitting with my homeowner, I can even start to populate this to say that I can have a professional photography here tomorrow, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, on the 16th of July. And from here, I populate this marketing calendar with activity that we can do for them in the next week or so. Again, it asks for a little bit of preparation before we go and meet that homeowner, before we sit down and we present. Why am I doing this? Because I want to show my client that I am the best prepared. I'm on top of my game. I want to do the best for my client. I want to bring them results. They can trust me. Everything is in writing, and this will bring you the mandate. I can tell you now, this will bring you more mandates and more sales and more success. Then there's a write-up maybe on yourself, which you probably should have in your presentation, because as we said earlier, it's a very personal business. They want to read on who you are. You could even have a second page if you have a lot of history and success and a track record in this business. You possibly want to add a second personal profile page where you have more information, sharing more information with your homeowner. It's also important, it's also handy to emphasize the fact that there's a team behind you. It's not only you, there's your principal, your head administrator, there's the whole team behind you. If you take your client's property to market, it is your whole team that sells that property or that rents that property. So there's also then an office profile where your client can read up on who your office is. What are your clients saying? We know that we live in a time of social proof, and it's always extremely important for clients, or it's extremely important to show to clients what past clients have said about your service. This will put you in very, very good stead. Another page that I really want to encourage you to also include in your presentation, and I don't have it with me today, is maybe something on your customer experience, your CX, your Google ratings on Google My Business, maybe your Facebook ratings that you have on the office Facebook page. You can build a beautiful page, again, emphasizing the feedback that you get from happy clients, happy customers. Again, that is social proof that builds trust with your homeowner, and it just brings you closer to that step where they say, yes, I trust you. Yes, I trust your team. Where can I sign? I want you to sell my property. That's the bottom line. This is also a page on your unique value proposition. And it says something like, whatever it might be for you, but for this agent, it says that the average listing in the current market sells for 93% of asking price, but we achieve 96.4% of asking price within an average period of 25 days. So if my commission at 5% is 2% above my opposition, if my opposition agent asks 3% and I'm at 5%, I'm 2% more expensive, but I am bringing my client 3.4% on average higher offers than the market does. The market sells at 93%, we achieve 96.4%. So what are these stats for you in your office? That is what you have to go and determine. If you don't have this in your listing presentation yet, these are stats that you need to determine by analyzing the market over the past 6 months or the past 12 months. What has the market done, and what have you done in your office on your sole mandate sales, so that you can present this to your homeowner? And also, what are the average number of days in the market for your sole mandate properties? This is not a difficult exercise. If you have been in the industry for a good amount of time, let's say 2, 3, 4 years and plus, you'll have this information for yourself. If you are new to the business and you don't have this data for your own sales, you can use your office sales. Speak to your principal and your manager and bring this data into your listing presentation where it reflects what your office does. So in other words, you sell what the office has done, if that makes sense. Right, guys, you will get this presentation, or you will get a copy of this presentation, so you can just study this again and speak to us if there's anything that's unclear on these slides. This page just shows that some offices offer different packages, commission packages, and call it marketing packages, as you will see on the page. And the different packages include different things that we do that are included in that packages percentage or commission percentage or fee percentage. Different strokes for different folks. Different offices have different packages, but ultimately you have to know exactly what you're offering your seller at a certain commission percentage. I know that some offices just have a flat rate and some offices have packages. You know what's happening in your office. So just obviously it's important that in your listing presentation, you are clear on this page in your presentation and how you communicate this to your homeowner. And this is often where we start to close our client, because if they can see which package they're interested in, and you have really sold yourself, you've sold your services, you are on the same page in terms of price, then you can start to close the deal with the seller. And this is where the ask comes in. End with a confident, clear call to action. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, if you are happy to proceed, I have a copy of my mandate with me. We can complete the paperwork right here, right now, and I can, when I leave here today, I can make a call to our photographer and our videographer, and I can have them in tomorrow or the next day. So it's that conversation almost goes around what are the next steps? What is the call to action? Let's complete the paperwork so that we can get the ball rolling and we can get you to market ASAP. Offer a mandate agreement and explain the next steps. It's also very important actually to have a copy of the benefits of an exclusive mandate in your listing presentation, because there's often a conversation that arises around, but why should I give you a sole mandate? Why should I give you as the agent the sole mandate? And this is a conversation that you have with your seller to explain to them what the benefits of an exclusive mandate are, and what the negatives of an open mandate are. So again, that they are really informed. And remember that everything that is said here is for the benefit of your seller. It is to make the process as comfortable as possible for them, and it is to bring them the very best result. That is what it comes down to. This is not just cheap talk. It is not just sales talk. These are real benefits of an exclusive mandate, and you have to believe it. You have to you have to be so well versed and practiced that you can explain this to your client by looking them in the eye and speaking from the heart and explaining to them the benefits of a sole mandate and really believing in it instead of reading it from here. But if you don't get to this page, when you sit with them, you'll obviously leave the listing presentation with your client and they can go and read it in their own time afterwards or tonight, when they looking for something for a bedtime reading, they can go and read the benefits of an exclusive mandate. But it's just so important that we have this on hand so that we can have this conversation with our seller. This is just a slide to emphasize how we are different from the market, but I'm not going to go into detail on that. You can have this in your presentation, but like I said earlier, this detail around your unique value proposition, very important, very important. But we got to actually show somewhere in your presentation, you got to show how you are different from the market, because this is what you will base your value proposition on. This is your value proposition. And that basically brings you to the end of your listing presentation. Some offices have different information also in the listing presentations. They might include costs. They have one or two pages on costs and other information. Like I said earlier, it's what you decide to have in that listing presentation, but just make sure that it's the very best that it can be, the best in market. And as you journey along in your career in real estate, you'll always ask yourself, how can I further improve on my listing presentation? Because remember, better never stops. We are never at a point where we say, I cannot improve or I cannot get better. Today, your listing presentation might be the best that you believe it can be, but ask yourself again in 3 months or 6 months' time, where can I make some slight changes? What more can I bring in, or what different can I bring in, or what should I remove to make my presentation the very best that it can be? Have that growth mindset, guys. Look at your presentation and ask yourself, how can we improve on this? And a last thing that I want to finish off this presentation is your commitment to be the best, to be really well versed in communicating some information with your seller or with your landlord. And that is why we say we want to sharpen the saw. The saw is your ability, your knowledge, your skills to communicate important information to that client, or to be able to not combat, but to handle their objections that your clients might have. And for that, the Harcourts Academy has recently launched what we call a script and objection handling workbook that you will also find on the Harcourts Hub. It's under sales agents, it's under sales tools, if I'm not mistaken, but you will find it there with the keywords scripts and objection handling workbook. Have a look at that in your on the Harcourts Hub. Print it out, have this document handy, guys, and use it, study it, go and role play it. We know that, when you sit in front of a homeowner, you have an opportunity to win the business. But that is crunch time. You cannot afford to make mistakes or to say the wrong things, because you might lose the opportunity then. So you don't want to bleed in battle. If you are, let's say you're in battle out there and you don't know what to say, you are not well versed on handling objections, then you might lose the business. And that is why it's important that we sweat in practice. We sweat in practice, we put in the work, we put in the effort, and we role play these scripts and objection handling with our sales principal or with our colleagues in the office. Find a person that you can have fun with and that you can role play with. just have a look at what some of these sections in this workbook are. There are common objections from sellers and landlords, common objections from buyers, frequently asked buyer questions, etc., etc. So please go and download this document if you haven't done it yet, and uh, and have it handy. Practice often, and get on top of your game so that when you sit in front of your client, you really know what to say and you can win the business. We have said a lot today, and the last question that I want to leave with you and that I want you to ponder over is the question, how badly do you want it? I don't know who's listening to this presentation, obviously. And you might be, I don't know where you find yourself in your business, but what we do know is that there are many real estate professionals in this industry that don't have the mindset of a business owner, taking ownership of your business, thinking like an entrepreneur, and taking control of what you have control and influence over in your business. Nothing will happen, no more success will come to your business if you don't want it badly enough, right? Nothing will change if nothing changes, is how the saying goes. And I want to encourage you to ask yourself, how badly do I want it? What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And how successful do you want to be in this business? Because if you have a burning desire, if you have a passion to be extremely successful, then you'll do whatever it takes to go and build your very best listing presentation that you can build. You will go and build your pre-list presentation. You will have your post-list presentation, and you'll make sure that you put in all the effort and make the sacrifices to have all the necessary tools and resources to optimize your lead conversion so that you can win more listings, that you can win more sold mandates, and that you can maximize your commission percentage, maximize your earnings, but in the end, have more fun, have more successful business. And guys, I want to close by saying, let's all, as Harcourts agents, commit to listing like Harcourts pros. As we said in the beginning, you are doing it for yourself. You're doing it for you in your team, but you are doing it for a greater purpose also. You're doing it for the Harcourts team. Please, can I appeal to you to keep that in your heart, to believe that we all rely on each other to build, to continue to build this Harcourts brand promise as one team. As one team, we want to put out a fantastic offering to our clients and for the public to know what they can expect from Harcourts. So thank you so much for your time today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to your BSM. We are here to assist you in any way we can. And I wish you all the very best in your business with building your listing presentation, making it the very best that it can be, and go out there, win more mandates, win more business, and make us proud. Look after yourself. Take care. Ciao.